Welcome, welcome, welcome to the TCAD 10-Minute Take. It is I, your host, Sheree L. Stewart, and with me, as always, is my intrepid co-host, Don the Legend Chambers. And today, as promised, we are talking about Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Yes!
Godzilla!
Yes!
So, before we get started, make sure you click that subscribe and you click that bell to get notifications on every 10-minute take as soon as they drop. Now, this is the 10-minute version of our normal TCAD podcast where we talk about one movie and one movie only. So we're not going to get into all the other business that we do in the normal podcast. And at the end of the show, we'll tell you where you can listen to all the other stuff. So, as always, Don will go first. And go.
Godzilla, King of the Monsters. So ready for this. Now, don't get me wrong. I like the previous Godzilla that came out a couple years ago. I dug it. I only wished that they had just shown more of Godzilla and more of the fights before the end fight scene that it had. Don't get me wrong, it was still a very cool fight, but I get they sort of wanted to do that one from the point of view of the people on the ground who are going to be affected, by Godzilla and these monsters coming. Totally got it. Still a good movie. Still dug it. Just want to see a little bit more. Well, let me tell you something. In this Godzilla movie, you are getting Godzilla, Mothra, Rodan. I mean, you're getting monsters galore. My only complaint in this movie is that there were people in it. That's it. That honest to God, every time there was a people scene and people talked or anything, I literally just sat there like, can we speed this up? Can we move this along? All I wanted to see was just the monsters fighting. And let me tell you, when the monsters were fighting, and there was a lot of it, it was bad ass. I just can't. It brought me back to childhood, like Sunday mornings, Godzilla movies of watching the guy in the rubber suit and the flying Mothra, which you know was on strings, coming around, and it was so awesome back then. And this movie was just so awesome in that way that I totally overlooked the nonsensical plot. I totally overlooked the cliched writing. I totally overlooked characters that made no sense whatsoever. It did not matter. I did not care because when the monsters fought, it was loud, it was brutal, it was just devastation. And I think it helped that I watched it on an IMAX screen, but like one of those 30-foot, IMAX screens, and the sound was loud, and I sat in the back and I watched the whole thing, and I was like, this is what a Godzilla movie is meant to be. Now, there's going to be a Godzilla versus King Kong. I mean, they definitely hint at it in the movie, and my body and soul is ready for it. It truly is. All I ask is just don't put any people in there. I don't need. I really don't need to see any. Just put Godzilla here, put King Kong here, and just go fight. And then I'll sit here just like this and watch the whole thing. And I'll be perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. So look, if I'm rating it, it is opening night, IMAX, get all your popcorn, get all your drinks, and be ready. Just, when people are on, just tune them out. As a matter of fact, close your eyes. You don't need to see them. You don't need to pay attention. Nothing that they do matters. What matters is the monsters. Man, let me tell you. I'll give this movie a solid 8. I would have given this more, except again, there are people in this, and they actually, some ridiculous story, which made no sense whatsoever. But, God, some of the visuals were just gorgeous with those monsters. It was, man, it was beautiful. It was.
Are you gonna be okay?
It was just a moment there. It was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will say that again, we're back on the. I didn't hate it. It was a whole lot of stupid business. Like the plot of the people, like you said, like the stuff with people made no sense. No. And they didn't really take the time. Like, I don't even like, they were these characters in the movie in 2014?
Just the Ken
Ken
Watanabe and his
was the only
assistant.
one, right?
And his assistant, and that one general who made the brief cameo.
Yeah.
And that
But
was,
like Kyle Chandler
no.
and Vera Farmiga, they weren't in this movie. Yeah, no. Okay, so they set this movie up as if it was a true sequel to the one in 2014, where we have these characters that we're following that we're supposed to know all about. Like, it was literally set up as if this was a sequel, and we are supposed to know these people and their backstory and what's going on, and they work for, the Project Monarch, and they had a falling out. Like, it literally followed the beats of a sequel, like a real sequel with these characters. And we have no idea who these people are, and we're just supposed to be like...
yeah, it was like
Like,
okay.
I have no idea who any of these people are. We're supposed to, like, they made it seem like we were dumb. Like, we should apologize for not knowing who these people are. Like, I had to check. I was like, I can't turn my phone on in the theater, but I don't think I know who you are. Like, why are you acting like it's my fault that I don't know who you are? Like when you go to a party and you meet somebody you've been introduced to 10 times and you don't remember them. That's how they were treating us. Like, we've been introduced to them 10 times and we're assholes for not remembering. But aside from that, the monster stuff, like, I feel like we have crouched into a golden age of CGI where, the CGI animatronic hybrid had really reached its like peak of perfection when we got Jurassic Park in 1993.
Yeah.
And then movie companies, I guess for expense or time or whatever, they started doing more CGI and less puppetry and animatronics, and it looked bad. Like, it just looked bad. Like, you have movies, like even some of the later Jurassic Park movies that don't look good as the first Jurassic Park, because there's too much CGI and not enough practical. Like, I feel like we finally crossed the threshold of the CGI looking as good as possible, where they really don't necessarily need the practical stuff. And when you have these monsters that are as big as Godzilla and Mothra and Rodan and
King Ghidorah.
Ghidorah. Like, you have them all, and they're so big in scale. Like, you really needed the animatronics to have the velociraptors, because they're like 6 feet tall, and you're like having close interaction, and CGI just doesn't cut it. But the scale is enormous. And this though, like Godzilla, when he walked out, I was like, you remember that movie, The Great White Hype?
Yes.
When David Wayans is like sitting around eating ice cream, and he's supposed to be like boxing, and he's just schlubbed up.
His training was nothing.
Yeah, like, it felt like that guy was in the suit. Like old school Godzilla. Like how he used to be, like you say, like Saturday Morning Godzilla was definitely like a schlubbed up guy in a suit. It felt like that, but it was computer animated schlubbed up guy in a suit instead of an actual guy. And
if you remember, they just before it started, they honored that the guy that did portray Godzilla, because he just recently passed. I wish I could remember his name. Yeah, they did that on the screen.
His eyes were all thick, and he was just sort of like, he walked like a guy. Like, even though it was computer animated, he walked like a guy in a suit. It was ridiculous.
Yep, it was awesome.
I was for it. I will say, the people business really got tedious at times, and I was making up a story in my own head to make it make sense. I don't know if I'd spend the money to see it in IMAX, but I would definitely, recommend seeing it in the theater versus waiting for it to come out on Redbox or Netflix, anything like that, because the monster fighting needs that scale. And it's nice because it's not... It got a little bit at times when they were in Boston, but you know how Transformers is so much robot battling that you sometimes can't, and the moving parts with robot moving parts, and you can't keep track of what's happening. With Godzilla, at least, and the different monsters, it wasn't as as confusing as all that. Like, you can keep track of what's going on.
That's true.
Who's fighting who and who's fighting who. Even when it was Hydra, which is both, you know, the lizard monster as Godzilla is, there was enough differentiation that you weren't, you know, headache cataclysmically lost. A little bit in Boston, when there's so much city destruction, it got kind of hard to keep track of where they were.
Yeah, everything was basically at night too. So yeah,
and it's raining, and you're just like, what the hell's going on? But it wasn't that bad. It was actually, you know, in the grand scheme of monster fighting, it was very minimal confusion. Just ignore the people business. I mean, the acting was solid. They had some really solid character actors in it. Kyle Chandler, who's always awesome, America's Dad. Vera Farmiga, who's always like in the mix of, you know, is she a good person? Is she a bad person? You know, always. Millie Bobby Brown, Ken Watanabe, like you said, who is amazing as always. Even Tywin Lannister showed up to be, you know, perfectly sinister at the perfect sinister time for a sinister character to come in and sinister it up. So, I mean, it followed all the tropes and it followed all the lines and it connected all the dots, but that's really not why you're going to go there. You're going to go there to see the CGI monster fight. It's essentially, you know, we got our bloodlust on and we're cockfighting with monsters, and it's fine. Like, go see it in the theater. I mean, really, honestly, I would see it, you know, I'd pay full price, but I wouldn't go all 3D or IMAX or all that business. Like, it's just not for me. Because the people business was just, if it was more of that there, it'd be worth the extra expense for me. But they're really, like, you just have to just be like, that doesn't make any kind of sense. O'Shea Jackson Jr., why are you still alive? You know? It was just too much for me to justify spending $20 on a ticket. So that's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say regular price movie ticket. Go see it before it's in, like, while it's still in the theater. Even if it's a matinee. Even if you go see a matinee, it's definitely worth a theater experience. And there's very few movies that are still worth that giant screen theater experience. So if you haven't been to the theater in a while, watching Godzilla fight Hydra is what's up.
Absolutely.
and fight Mothra is what's up. Queen of the monsters, apparently. But anyways, that's it. That's our time. Don, you want to tell them where they can find us?
Yes, you can find us at tcadnetwork.com. That's where everything is. All of our podcasts. You have TCAD, you have Good Morning Antioch, you have Reading, you'll have all of our podcast episodes. Also, you have all of our links to our 10-minute takes, as well as some of our written work, a little bit about us, and other good, interesting stuff we're going to be putting on there in the future. Now, you can also obviously find us on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, we're on Hipcast, we're on Radio Public, but we really want you to go tcadnetwork.com, because that's the hub where everything is. But while you're here on YouTube, definitely subscribe, hit the notification. If you ever get an itch, you can check us out on Facebook. It's facebook.com/tcadpodcast. We're on Twitter, twitter.com/tcadpodcast. Sheree is there as Actor on the Edge. You can always email us at tcadpodcast@gmail.com or give us a call.
504-345-9344.
But all of that as well is on our webpage at tcadnetwork.com. We're making it easy for you. Next up, X-Men, Dark Phoenix. Stick around for that. But as always, if you have any requests, send us a shout, send us an email, or hit us a note on Facebook, or leave us a comment somewhere. Let us know what you want us to see, and we'll do that for you. So until next time.
Bye.